All right, so we have a 2015 Ram 1500 with an EcoDiesel. It doesn't matter if it's got the V6, the EcoDiesel, or the Hemi. It's all going to be the same, but the video today will be how to remove and rebuild your front axle shafts. This one I'm specifically just doing the driver's front. The other side's fine, but yeah, typically, you know, you see this, you get grease on the on their brake hose and your ABS wiring harness. Yep, we got a torn boot. So these are some of the tools that you're probably going to need. 35 millimeter socket, 6-point for the axle nut. You might want to get a flashlight. Air hammer is not necessary, but that's just what I use to press this axle shaft through to loosen it up out of the bearing. You could just use a punch and a hammer. We got a 13 millimeter socket for the brake caliper bolts, also 21 millimeter and a flex for the brake caliper bracket, and I'm also going to be using that for the ball joint, upper ball joint, and the tie rod end nuts. And then yeah, an extension, maybe a long 21, and a 22 millimeter socket as well for obviously taking the wheels off, and maybe a coat hanger or some hooks, caliper hooks to hold your caliper up. So let's get started. All right, so if you turn the wheels all the way so they're pointed that way, you can gain access to these two 21 millimeter bolts. You don't even have to take the brake caliper off of the bracket if you don't want to. Some people do, some people don't. I just left it all together, hung it up, took that nut off, zipped this nut off. Now, like I say, if you have like a deep 21 and one of these 1/2-inch flexes, you can get your gun up there and once again have the wheel turned towards the passenger side all the way. You can get in behind there and zip that nut off. And this one's obviously self-explanatory. Same thing, 21 millimeter nut. The joint itself just came loose as I was loosening it, but if it doesn't, just like this joint, you can go ahead like that. Sorry if I didn't get that in the shot. Just use a hammer and give that a couple schwacks. Yeah, there's a tool that clamps onto this and presses on that ball joint thread, or not thread, but you know what I mean, the end of the ball joint stud, and loosens that off. But we just do it the old-fashioned way with the hammer. She'll live a long life yet. And then yeah, I grabbed my air hammer and I already got it loose, but you get the idea. Those spline shafts get stuck inside of there in the splines of the bearing, so just want to free that up, make sure that's good to go. The next thing you want to do, I guess, before you take this off, maybe just make sure you got lots of slack in your harness. You know, undo it off of the knuckle there, and then obviously there's one more spot on the control arm. You undo it off of there. Gives you some extra room because you don't want to be wrecking that cable, right? So now we got that off. Now we can try to lift this arm up and get this thing out. We should be able to sneak that axle out this way now with the right motivation and coaxing. And once we get that out, we can move over to the I guess it'd be the differential, not the transmission, and we'll pop that out using the pry bar. All right, so for some reason I was mistaken. I guess you have to take the sway bar link end off the shock mounting bolt. That's a 16, by the way, and this is a 24 millimeter nut with a 21 millimeter head bolt that goes through. And then I undid the lower ball joint 24 millimeter nut, and then give that a little bit of a hammer on the back end, and dropped off. I put the nut on the threads to protect the threads and also keep the knuckle from just falling right off. So for some reason I thought I could take that off without having to take the knuckle off, but maybe I'm wrong. If you know of a way, let me know in the comments. All right, let's get this thing out of here. So next step, pry bar. All right, so sorry it's a bit of a poor angle, but you can either hammer on the back side of the axle. I don't really have to worry about the boots right now because we're gonna be replacing them. Just like that. Oh. Now you can see, I'll put this over here. Yeah, you can see, so there's a stub shaft as well. That's supposed to stay in the transmission, but always comes out. These things just get friggin' seized on there, or they wear out so much that you got a clunk. So all right, so what I'm gonna try to do is just leave this stub shaft on. I've got the boot repair kit for, I picked up both boots, the outer and the inner. Now, they gave me the same part number. It's a DX530 made by Duraflex. And you get the boot, you get the grease, and you get the your bands that hold the boots all together. These are the nice bands. They just have some teeth on them, and then a couple different notches. So yeah, you slide them together like so, and then the little teeth hook in, and then you just use a pair of there's special pliers that you can use that crimp those together and puts tension on the boot. So now the inner boot's not torn, and it looks like it's in pretty good shape. It actually appears to be a different size than this boot, so I think what I'm going to try to do is just reuse this inner boot and just replace the outer one that's torn. It's always good to open up the box and make sure that you've got all of your pieces that you need. There's nothing worse than ripping things apart only to find out that there's no clamps in the box or the parts necessary to finish the job. So first step here is, you could do this on the ground if you want. Obviously I have a vise, so that's what I'm going to use, but we got to get this clamp off. I believe the axles, basically how it's assembled is you've got the inner portion of the axle. That's like the starting point. So you gotta take this off, get the boot down. There'll be a clip in there that lets you get everything apart, and then we can get to the outer portion. There is that tool that spreads the boots to put them on. I should probably buy that someday, but in the meantime, for the guys that are just rebuilding this, without that tool, this is how you're going to do it. I'm going to try to leave this shaft in here because I think I can just get this whole assembly to come off. I probably won't have to remove that. So first things first, let's get this clamp off of here. And I think my weapon of choice is probably going to be a die grinder. I'm going to make a cut till it's just about through, and then use some a flathead screwdriver to probably break it. Alright, so there we go, I got it to break. It's a very delicate procedure. You can see there, did not cut the boot at all. Might be able to get some side cutters in there or something, but whatever, we got it off, so let's take this off now. Yeah, so there you go. You can see how that's put together. They have sort of like a puzzle piece shape that snaps together. Do recommend wearing gloves at this point. This stuff is going to get all over the place. I'm going to actually grab a garbage can and try to get the majority of this stuff, this grease out. But yeah, we do need to cut that other band that's down here so we can slide the boot all the way back. And there should be a snap ring that keeps this axle end piece on. And then if we remove that, we can get this thing out of here. All right, so once I'll show you the disassembly procedures because I just skipped ahead, but basically you're gonna peel this boot back. This is the inner portion of the shaft, okay? So you're gonna cut those two bands, peel this back. That's gonna give you access to this thing right here, okay? So this piece sits in here like that, and what it does is it locks this on, or sorry, locks this over top of this so that they can't come apart. So once you get this piece off, which is easy to get off, it just, see them little tabs on the side? You just pull in and up and over type thing. You'll figure it out, just don't bend it. And then, once you get that thing slides off, then you're gonna be left with a shaft that looks like this, with the boot still on it and a bunch of grease. You will mark where this is clocked on the shaft. You can see I used some Sharpie there. And I also just took a little punch and I put two little nicks in the end of the shaft. And that's not gonna hurt nothing. Okay, and that shows me which orientation that needs to be in, because you need those rollers to be in sync with your CV shaft at the very end, okay? Otherwise you're gonna have vibration issues. It's not gonna be good. You're gonna be upset. So you mark it, then you've got to take this little circlip off, okay? Pretty easy. You just get in there with two screwdrivers, pop it off, then you can take that roller assembly off of the end. Okay, it's just blind, it just slides off. And you can go ahead and take your boot off. Then you'll be left with the boot still on this side, the one that we need to replace. Cut the bands off of it. Now this boot was torn, so I don't really care if I cut it. So I just went ahead, cut those off, slip the boot off all the way off the end. Now we're left with this. So next thing that I do is inspect the end of the CV shaft, the CV joint, sorry, because, well, it's been exposed to the open elements. I want to make sure that there wasn't any water in there, that there wasn't any dirt and stuff in there, and it was relatively clean. We've lost some grease, which is to be expected, right? It's been leaking out, but got it all cleaned up. Everything looks good. Now we're ready to go back together. So like I say, this is the outer portion that goes through the wheel bearing bolted to the hub, and that's the inner portion that goes into the differential. Grab yourself the boot kit that you've got, right? Get the boot. Then you're gonna take the grease, and you're gonna slide this thing onto the axle, like so. Okay. And then I'll have it up here obviously, but you're gonna take your grease, fill the boot full of grease. Try to get some grease in here. Like I say, I recommend wear gloves. This stuff's not nice. Supposedly it's really cancerous. So, but get it all in there. shove the boot on, put your clamps on, top and bottom. Then we're ready to reassemble the bottom. And I'll try to get some video on reassembly so that there's no confusion.